Hello, this is Hands-on Auto DevOps with GitLab CI. This is Section 2, Build Stages, Artifacts, and Variables. In this section, we'll look at using build stages, running build steps in parallel, speeding up our builds by caching some results, defining artifacts, using those artifacts in future stages, and declaring variables that we can pass into our builds. Using build stages. In this video, we'll look at the default build stages. We'll look at how we can customize the build stages by declaring them for ourselves in our GitLab CI YAML file. And we'll look at how we assign a particular job to a stage. You can think of a stage as a container for jobs. Each stage has one or more jobs in it. The stages are run in the order they're declared, one after the other. And any failure of a job within that stage marks the entire stage as failed. And if a stage is marked as failed, then the subsequent stages are generally skipped. We don't run them if an earlier stage fails, which means that oftentimes we will use our stages as a way of driving our build pipeline. So we'll build first, and if the build is successful, we'll run tests. If the test is successful, then we will deploy. Now, in the simple examples of GitLab CI.yaml files that we saw in the previous section, we didn't declare any stages at all. And that was okay, because GitLab provides us with a set of default stages that are always available if we don't declare any of our own. And those are build, test, and deploy. So we can immediately start using these stages, or we can leave off any kind of stage definition entirely, like we saw in our very simple examples, because any of our unassigned jobs are automatically going to be assigned to that test stage. Now, in order to use stages to declare them for ourselves, let's go over and look at an example GitLab.yaml file. So this is going to be the GitLab CI.yaml file for our Kubernetes deployment example. So if I open that up, you'll see right at the top, I have a section where I declare stages. And at the moment, all I'm doing is just redeclaring the defaults. So I could take these first 5 lines out of this file, and right now the behavior wouldn't change. But let's think for a minute about exactly how this particular CI file works. I have a build job, and this job is called build. It's also in the build stage. These names don't have to be the same. I've just made them the same here. And that's doing a Docker image build. And then it's ultimately pushing that Docker image to a registry. We then have a test job where we're just using a node Docker image in order to run our test against our code with the database running at the same time. Now, if we think about this, I'm actually going to go through the whole build and push process, and then I might have a test failure that's going to cause me to error out, and I'm not going to finish the last stage, which is this deploy stage. So that Docker image is kind of wasted in that case, and we really didn't need to spend the time that was involved to build it if we were going to have a test failure. So really what I would like to do is have the test happen before the build. Now the easiest way to do that is just to go right back up to the top of the file, and we'll just change the order in which these two things are declared. So I'll change it so that it does test first, and then build, and then deploy. And I don't have to change the order that the jobs are declared in further down because it knows which job is assigned to which stage. So let's save that, and we will jump over to our terminal window, and we will just do a git commit of that change. We'll call that put test first. Commit that. We'll then push it to the GitLab server. And now that that push is done, we can jump over to our browser and we can see exactly what order everything is building in. So if we jump over to the browser and we look at our CI/CD pipelines, we can see that in our first pipeline, we actually did the build first, and then we did the test next, and then we did the deploy. In this case, you can see that it's going to do the test first, and then it's going to do the build. So it's going to run them in the order that we declared them, so if we have a test failure, we won't bother to go ahead and build the Docker image. We'll wait for this to complete. Okay, 2 of our stages have completed successfully, and again, You see that the test stage went first this time. It went in front of the build stage, unlike before where we saw the standard default order of build, test, deploy. And again, if we jump back over to the GitLab ci.yaml file, you'll see that the reason is that we took this test stage right here and we moved it so that it was in front of the build stage, and that's what we checked in to the source code repository. You'll also notice before we finish here that, again, we explicitly assigned each build to each job to a particular stage. So this build job is assigned to the build stage. And again, these could be called anything we wanted, these individual jobs. We've just chosen to name them the same as the stage because there's only one job in that particular stage. Now that assignment is very important. Even though the job is called build, we need to explicitly assign it to the build stage. Otherwise, the default is it winds up as part of test, and then it winds up running in parallel with our test job, which might not be what we want. That's actually the topic for our next video.